Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to today's live session. We're on day number 38, and I'm so excited for the incredible learnings that we're going to have today, for the incredible success that we are going to create, because finally, we are going to address one of the biggest traps that we could ever fall into in our lives. I mean, this trap that we're going to be talking about is so insidious, it's so deceptive, and it's so much like quicksand that you don't even realize when you are falling into it. And oftentimes, the moment you realize it, it's too late. And all the success you wanted to build, all the growth you wanted to achieve, all the goals that you had, you end up sabotaging them, and you end up in a zone of regret and fear and guilt where you believe nothing ever works out for me. No matter how hard I try, I always end up failing. My luck is only bad. Well, what if I told you it's not your luck, but it's your habit and your tendency of falling back into the same trap, into the same pattern, into this one thing that's creating the biggest blocks to your growth? Would you like to know what this trap is? But not just knowing what it is, but what are the things that you can do to change it, to recover from it, and above all, to grow from it so that something that used to become a barrier for you before can be the very thing that empowers you to succeed, that empowers you to grow, that empowers you to become your best self. Well, if you'd like that, stick with me for the next 15 minutes because I am going to reveal to you what that trap is exactly and how you can get out of it. And the question that actually made me find out this trap was a simple one. And I'm sure you've asked this to yourself, either in a context, but I've asked it to myself more from a curiosity perspective, more from a perspective of why do human beings behave like this? And that question was, if human beings are so smart, why do they end up making so many stupid decisions that end up sabotaging their own growth, that end up sabotaging their own success? I mean, the paradoxes are too big to not pay attention to. There's a CEO who's making $1 million a year, who's growing crazily, who's an incredible business leader, an incredible business thinker, and yet their personal lives are a mess. Rather than having great, committed, and successful relationships, they're entangled in a complete mess of it. At the same time, there are some people who are really good speakers, who are really confident in the way they present themselves, yet you spend a few hours with them and you realize, oh, the confidence is just a facade. Actually, the person is so insecure, the person is so fearful, the person is so afraid of other people's judgment that they're not even able to be their own selves, they're not even able to live their lives happily. And as I kept studying more and more about success, but even more as I kept coaching, as I kept coming across different people and their stories, I started noticing this paradox even more prominently, where there would be some people who are really good in one area, but they're so bad and so much suffering that if they, and the funny thing is, if they applied the same principles and thinking that they're applying in the one area where they're already doing good in, the other area would just bounce back. But for some reason, they would still end up being stuck there. They would still end up feeling lost. They would still end up in this trap. And what that trap creates ultimately is a downward pull. And in that downward pull, the first question that we start asking ourselves is, what's the point of doing so much? What's the point of taking so much action if life's going to be miserable anyways? So here's what happens. Here's why we end up being inconsistent when it comes to chasing our goals. We begin something with great enthusiasm, with great enjoyment, with great energy, with great effort. But then it reaches a plateau, then it reaches a challenging stage, then it reaches a place where all our resources are called upon. But in that moment, we are not able to bring them in. Why? Because we have fallen into this trap. And the moment we've fallen into that trap, we start going down and down and down and down and down. And when we go down, the mistake we make is we stay down. So, for example, how many times have you done this, by the way? And if you've not done, I'm sure you've seen somebody do it. They are very disciplined in, let's say, their career or the work that they're doing, but their health is in shambles. They're not in the right shape. They're not taking care of themselves. They're not doing anything. And they have this goal: I am going to exercise 5 days a week. Monday, they miss it. Monday, gone. Alarm rings and they're snoozing through it all and they're not able to do it. And then they say, what's the point of doing it anyways? I've missed one day. Now this week it won't happen. That's the trap. That's the inconsistency. That question, what's the point? Why am I even doing this? It derails you away from the reason you started pursuing your goals. It derails you from all the actions that you wish you could have taken. It derails you from the success that you could have had, all because you got a bit impatient and you got a bit frustrated. Why are things not working out for me? And that question is the trap I'm talking about. That question is the reason most of us are failing, because even before we can let the seed sprout, we're asking ourselves, what's the point? There's no growth here. And we quit. We move on. We chase another high. We chase another shining star. We believe just this one thing will change in my life and everything will be sorted. Just that I can marry the love of my life and my life's going to be the best. Just that I can get the next promotion and my life will be the best. We stay in this illusion, we stay in this dream where we believe the next thing will fulfill us, the next thing will complete us, the next thing will finally answer the question, what is the point? But the question never gets answered, and all we are left with is a repetition of the same question with more achievements but more hollowness. And that imbalance that becomes there is what leads us to self sabotaging choices, to self sabotaging decisions, where we are making good progress in one area, we are doing something, but for some reason, it all our frustration takes over us. I don't really think I can do it. And we go down, and our actions get inconsistent. And then we are like, why am I like this? Why am I not able to do it? I really want to do it. I'm not able to. But you see, that question derails your energy. That question drains away any and all inspiration you may have had. And then you are left wondering, nothing is working out. But can I tell you where that question is even coming from? Now, let's go even deeper to the core. Because it's one thing to identify and say, okay, this is the problem. Now we've got to identify why the problem is coming up, right? So we can solve it from the root itself. And there, my friends, I want to share with you a very, very powerful quote. I mean, it's a simple statement, a very simple statement. But if you can understand the depth that the statement holds, I can tell you, you will never ever ask the question, what's the point? You will never ever feel hopeless. You'll never ever feel frustrated when you're chasing your goals, especially when things get hard, because you will know the skill that this quote is talking about. So it comes from Richard Feynman, who's one of the greatest physicists of the 20th century. And he said this thing. He said, the first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. Let that sink in for a moment. I'll repeat it for you. The first principle is you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. We deceive ourselves so much more than we recognize. Self honesty is such a rarely practiced trait among us today that forget other people, even we don't know ourselves. And so, when the question comes, what's the point? When the frustration rises, when we're in that self sabotaging mode, where we are throwing away all the progress just because we don't feel comfortable enough to take more action, we are essentially saying, I want to feel good now. I don't care about my goals. But would that be a good thing to say? No, it wouldn't. Nobody would accept you for it. People would judge you for it. So rather than saying that, rather than admitting the truth, I want to be lazy. I don't want to do the hard work. I don't want to go in the gym 5 days a week to lose weight. I don't want to work extra hard to build my business. I don't like this. Rather than saying those things, what do? We deceive ourselves. We create lies. We create problems inside our minds that say, it's okay. It's justified for you to be in this frustration. It's justified for you to be in the zone of doubting yourself, of worrying about the future, not of asking, what's the point? But the truth is, those reasons are not real, those reasons are not true. You will know it when you can have that honest conversation with yourself. But the reason we are scared to be real with ourselves is because it hurts the ego. That's the very simple reason of it all. I mean, we don't like to admit it, we don't like to portray it, we all like to show the world how humble and how grounded and how sorted we are in our lives, where we are not seeking validation, we are not seeking vanity, we are noble human beings. And yet deep down, you know, the reason you're doing all of that is so someone can look at you and appreciate you and say, oh wow, good job. And then you feel good about yourself, then you feel that, oh yes, I did a good job. We are all seeking vanity on some scale or the other. We are all seeking importance on some scale or the other. We are all seeking validation on some scale or the other. And that chase of validation means if I'm wrong, that means I'm not being validated. And so the ego says, I can never be wrong. But admitting failure, admitting that I just don't want to do it, admitting that you want to be lazy and watch Netflix for 5 hours a day is going to hurt the ego. So, what would you rather do? You'd rather sulk. You'd rather go into a negative emotional zone. You'd rather be like, what's the point of doing it at all? I'm struggling so much. Things are not working out for me. But in that, all you are doing is fooling yourself. If you want to make things work out, you know you can make things work out. The challenge is not that hard. And the proof of that action lies here. You see, 90% of time, when people are in a regret emotion, or when people are in a guilt emotion, or when people are in this frustration and this hopelessness, if it was a real emotion, if it was truly something that bothered them, they would take the action to change the emotion, not just temporarily, but permanently, so that their actions will change, their steps will change, they will show sincerity in the way they live their life. But 90% of the time, what do people really do? They use that negative emotional state to justify why they are not taking action on their goals, to justify why it is right to be lazy, why it is right to be in this zone, why it is right for them to feel that they cannot achieve their goals. But all they are really risking, all they are really avoiding is failure. You see, it's connecting a lot, there's a lot of layers here, there's a lot of steps that you need to understand. But if you're following me through from the very start, you can see we're going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Now, the reason we fear that failure is because it would hurt the ego. It would hurt our validation. It would hurt the way we are accepted and supported by the people around us. And so we would rather get attention by being weak. We would rather get attention by going low, by sabotaging ourselves, by stepping into that quicksand, and by sacrificing our growth, rather than saying, I'm okay with being comfortable. I don't want to grow in life. That's too harsh for the ego, to admit that truth. So we cover it up with that kind of like a white lie. Like, I really want to grow. I'm just not able to. Really, that's not the case. You know it, I know it. So only question I'm asking you here is, if you want to succeed, if you want to get to the level of your goals, if you want to break free from this trap of fooling yourself, of going into the self-sabotage zone, then all you have to do is start having honest conversations with yourself. Start being real with yourself. Start calling yourself out on your own excuses. That's not being unkind. That's not being unloving to yourself. That's actually the highest form of self love. Because to love is not just to accept things the way they are, to love is to grow. To love is to see the potential and nurture it, not to see the comfort and crave it and delve in it. Ultimately, the choice is yours. What matters to you? If comfort matters to you, prioritize that, but be honest about it. Then don't suffer emotionally by saying, I want to grow, but I'm not able to. I want to do this, but I'm not able to. All that's doing is keeping you stuck and making you feel unsatisfied in your life. Be willing to be wrong, Be willing to be real. Be willing to accept the fact that, yeah, sometimes I just want to be there with myself. I don't want to grow. And then in that moment, be honest with yourself and ask yourself, what do I really want? If the goal is important, if I really want to achieve the success that I have in my mind, then I'm going to get out of this trap and I'm going to take the action even when it feels uncomfortable. Always remember this. I'm giving you a very important benchmark. If the feeling is real, if the doubt is real, if the worry is real, and if it is sincere, if it's something you really believe is causing you a lot of trouble, there will be some action to get out of it. But if it's only the emotion and the actions are conveying just laziness, the actions are just conveying distraction, the actions you are taking are just about deflecting and escaping, then you might just have created that zone of self deception where you are fooling yourself just because you don't want to be wrong. So there's a lot to unpack here. There's a lot to take action on. But the very first principle is to avoid this trap, figure out and accept and act upon what Richard Feynman said. The first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. Be aware of that, be mindful of that, be real with yourself about that, and you will be amazed by the magic, the results, and I mean the crazy, crazy growth that you achieve while feeling happy about that growth. So I hope this helped you. I hope this was good food for thought. If it was a little heavy on your side, please apologize me for that, because I wanted to, I didn't just want to make it a one simple concept and leave it as it is. I wanted to give you a complete breakdown of how this cycle starts and how we end up sabotaging ourselves. I hope that was helpful, and I will see you tomorrow once again at the same time, that is 8:30 p.m. And if you're honest about your growth, I know you'll show up there. If you're honest about being the best version of yourself, I know you will make time to be there as well. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for giving me your valuable time. I hope I was able to add value to that time as well. I'll see you once again tomorrow at exactly 8:30 p.m. See you soon. Bye.